Ndamukong Suh wanted to get paid. He wanted $100 million and was going to take his talents to whichever city was willing to pay up to his demands. Well, that team was the Miami Dolphins, so from Detroit to South Beach he goes. Suh is the most vilified player in the game due to his temper and sometimes deliberate and designed strokes of dirty play. We all remember the stomping incident on Thanksgiving Day against former Packers lineman Evan Dietrich Smith. I mean, that's just one of many personal fouls he's piled up since his rookie year since, well, 2010. In fact, no other defensive tackle has more personal foul infractions since that time. With an impatient fan base seeking a playoff win for the first time in 15 years, however, that didn't stop owner Stephen Ross from snagging the biggest shark in free agency. Suh received a 6-year, $114 million contract from the Dolphins, becoming the highest non-paid quarterback in the league. $60 million of that is guaranteed. Oh, man, that's a lot of money. All of a sudden, with Suh, Cameron Wake, and Olivier Vernon, the Dolphins have one of the most imposing defensive lines in the league. But that's, of course, if Suh is motivated. I mean, look what happened to Albert Haynesworth after he got 9 figures. Suh's presence is immediately going to improve the run defense, which ranked 24th last year, allowing 121.1 yards per game. The other guy who got handsomely paid in the offseason was Ryan Tannehill, who received $96 million, and he's locked up till 2020. The former college wide receiver has gotten better each season, and I think he's extremely underrated. He's going to have some new weapons to throw the ball to, too. Dolphins drafted Devontae Parker in the first round of the NFL draft and picked up the young, talented, and underrated Kenny Stills. Greg Jennings was brought in as well. It's a very talented and young receiving core overall. So how long is it going to take for Tannehill to build chemistry with all those new weapons? With all the new cogs in the machine, Joe Philbin is certainly firmly entrenched on the hot seat. His team was in playoff contention a year ago before falling down the stretch, losing 4 of their last 6 games. The same thing happened the year before when Miami drops 3 of its last 6 contests. Philbin is 23-25 overall during his 3-year stint in Miami and has finished 8-8 in each of his last 2 years. I am a bit concerned about Miami's cornerback situation. Outside of Brent Grimes, there's really not much there. Can 2013 second-round pick Jamar Taylor step up and exceed expectations? The same can be said about 2013 third-rounder Will Davis. Bryce McCain and Zach Bowman will also be in the mix. All right, so before I go position by position, I've got all the units ranked, all the players ranked, got numbers beside each player. So if you disagree with anything, let me know in the comment section below. I love a good debate. So let's go position by position now. Tannehill's going to have to take his play to another level this season if the Dolphins are finally going to get over the hump and make the postseason. But I think he's more than capable of doing so. He's still got a lot to learn, but he's made positive strides each season. Accuracy was his area of concern last season and what he wanted to improve most, and he excelled in Bill Lazor's offense last year, completing 66.7% of his passes. That was 5th in the league. I'd like to see him improve his pocket presence and deep ball accuracy this year. He struggled with the deep ball, and that's basically why he and Mike Wallace could never build cohesion with each other. Matt Moore will back up Tannehill, and Logan Thomas, who was signed after Arizona released him, will be the 3rd stringer. Lamar Miller took his game up a notch last year after the injury to Noshan Moreno. He finished with 1,009 yards rushing and averaged 5.1 yards a carry. He relies on his speed and one-cut running to get through the hole. He's quick catching the ball out of the backfield too. While Miller did bulk up in the offseason, he's not a power back, which is the reason why they drafted Jay Ajayi in the 5th round. He's a physical in-between tackles runner who should complement Miller nicely. I like Damian Williams too. He's got balance and played well in the limited time he saw, just 36 carries last year. Kenny Stills is a stud and on the verge of breaking out entering his 3rd season. He had 931 receiving yards a year ago. He's not a burner, but he's a really good deep threat. He's tough, makes catches in space, and is elusive in the open field. Parker may or may not be ready for the start of the regular season following foot surgery. He was the third wideout taken after Amari Cooper and Kevin White in April's draft. He has the size, strength, and athleticism combo that should make him a great receiver for years to come. Jarvis Landry is very overlooked. He has great hands and is the go-to possession receiver underneath. I like him a lot too. It's going to be an exciting trio to watch and develop over the next 5 years. The 31-year-old Jennings is the lone receiver on the roster that's gone over 1,000 yards. He'll bring a veteran presence to the young trio. Miami also went outside Jordan Cameron to replace Charles Clay. He battled injuries last year, but is a good red zone threat. He can't block like Clay, though. Deion Sims is a red zone threat as well. All right, moving on to the linemen. Brandon Albert's a guy that's battled injuries, and when healthy, he's one of the top, pass blocking tackles in the league. He's very athletic, plays with great balance and patience. He finishes off his blocks with good power and a good punch. He uses his athleticism in the run game and does well on the second level. He understands angles, but he does sometimes tend to come in a little bit too high. Mike Pouncey returns to center after a failed attempt at guard. It wasn't good. He was really, really bad last year. He signed a 6-year deal in April and is the highest paid center in the league. He's at his best in the run game where he plays with good balance. The other 3 offensive line spots are a bit of a mess. Juwan James is still very raw at right tackle. He enters his second season after starting all 16 games a year ago and allowed 12 quarterback hits. The pair of Dallas Thomas and Billy Turner at guard just isn't that good, but Thomas enters his 3rd year and Turner his 2nd, so maybe they'll be able to make some improvements. Suh is my top-ranked defensive tackle. Shouldn't really surprise anybody. Still hasn't been able to match his career-high sack total of 10, though, during his rookie season, but 8.5 is certainly nothing to scoff at. He leads all defensive tackles with 36 sacks and 239 tackles over the past 5 seasons, but his 35 penalties are also the most during that time frame as well. He's the quickest off the snap of any defensive tackle in the league, and if your blocker doesn't have elite recovery speed, you can forget about stopping him. And not only can he beat you with his quickness off the snap, his immense power allows him to push the pocket. If there is one thing that Suh's learned since his impressive rookie seasons, it's patience and awareness, especially in run defense. He would get upfield so quickly that opposing offenses would use this against him, but he's grown a lot more keen since. Joining Suh inside as a starter is Earl Mitchell, who had 7 tackles for loss a year ago. Despite him being 33 years old, I had Cameron Wake as my top 4-3 defensive end when I did my player rankings. Some of you, you might already know the Wake story, but I'll go through it again. He went undrafted in 2005 out of Penn State, where he played linebacker. He was signed by the New York Giants, but was released and didn't resurface until 2007, when he switched over to defensive end to play for the BC Lions of the CFL. He played 2 seasons over the border, leading the league in sacks both years, 16 in 2007 and 23 in 2008. The Miami Dolphins brought him in 2009 as a 3-4 outside linebacker, and Wake debuted with 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and 4 tackles for loss. The rest is history. 63 sacks in his 93 games with the Dolphins is very, very, very impressive. 11.5 of those sacks came last season to go with 14 hits and 39 quarterback hurries. Again, very impressive numbers considering how many double teams he has to fight through. He has a great bend and burst off the snap. His shoulder dip to get under the hands of a blocker is insane, and once he gets past that right tackle, he turns on the jets to get to the quarterback. Plays with good leverage, has a non-stop motor. His run-stuffing ability is clearly not his strength. He's just 6'3", 260, so he can be moved around. Olivier Vernon is the underrated opposite Wake, and having Suh next to him is only going to help him even more. He's a better pass rusher than he is run defender, although he's improved stopping the run. His first step off the snap is very quick. His speed and flexibility is very good when turning the corner. He likes to use a spin move, and his bull rush is effective as well. The depth behind the 4 starters is a bit scarce. There's Derek Shelby and Terrence Fady at defensive end. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Although the defensive tackle position is a bit better with C.J. Mosley and second-rounder Jordan Phillips. Mosley is a really solid player. Koa Misi and Jelani Jenkins are 2 very underrated linebackers. Misi will man the middle, and while he isn't very flashy, he gets the job done. He can also play on the outside too. Jenkins led the team in tackles and shows a great nose for the ball. He might be, just a bit undersized, but has great range and can go sideline to sideline. Chris McCain will be the starter at strong side linebacker. Kelvin Shepard and Spencer Pasinger are reliable backups. The cornerback situation in Miami isn't great, but I love Rashad Jones, who I rank 5th in my safety rankings. He's not as recognizable a name as some of the others I had in my top 10, but when I turn on the tape, I see a stud muffin. He also notches every category of the stat columns. Despite missing the first 4 games due to PED use, Jones still put up 80 tackles, 3 interceptions, a forced fumble, and a sack. At 6'1", 210, Jones is the guy that likes to play, in the box and lay the lumber. He can make tackles in space, pursuit, and in traffic. In coverage, Jones sees a lot of action against opposing tight ends. He did give up 3 touchdowns a year ago, but overall is a very solid cover man. It's unfortunate what happened to Louis Delmas, who tore the ACL in his right knee for a 2nd straight year. He's talented, but he's never on the field. After his latest setback, are we even ever going to see him play again? Hopefully Michael Thomas, Walt Aikens, or Jordan Kovac steps up and can make up for some of the lost production. Grimes didn't have a great year last year, but is a physical ball-hawking type of corner who will go up against the opposing number ones. I talked about it earlier, but somebody's going to have to step up behind him. Caleb Sturgis was 29 of 37 in his 2nd year, while punter Brandon Fields has a huge leg. Jarvis Landry will take care of both the kick and punt return duties. So, prediction time. I like the Dolphins this year. I got them going 10-6. I don't have them winning the NFC or the AFC East, but I do think they're a playoff team. I think they're a wild card team. I have them as the 5th seed in the AFC. A lot to like. I love the receiving core. Kenny Stills, Landry. I love those 2 guys. We'll see what Parker can bring his rookie season. I think Tannehill's the most underrated quarterback in the game, and he just keeps improving each season. I think he takes, his play up a notch again. And obviously the big thing is Sue on defense and what he's going to bring to the table in terms of stopping the run. It was wasn't a strength last year on defense, but it's going to be a strength this year if you have him in the middle there. So I like this team. Joe Philbin, he's going to see another year, I guess. I'm not that high on him. I'd rather see someone else in there. But if his team goes 10-6 and makes the playoffs, he should be safe this season. So, again, I said it earlier, debate me if you got any problems with my rankings or if you think maybe they're not a 10-6 team. Let me know in the comment section below. With that being said, I'm Adrian Fedke. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at @TheBitterBirds. I'm out of here. Later. Take care. And, football, man. We're almost here. We're less than a week away. Can't wait, man.